5 times earnings and I bought it.
What's up, fellas?
Yo, how we doing?
Value after hours.
During hours.
During hours. Makes no sense.
Don't
It
ask.
makes all the sense. It's a vibe.
It is a vibe. Are we going to have a vibe session?
I don't know.
Those
We
animal
might
spirits.
talk ourselves out of a vibe session. The vibe session was last year. Now we're
to the moon again.
now we're vibing.
Yeah. I'm
Soft
skeptical.
landing. It's all good.
Santa Monica, Altamonte Springs, Florida, Milton Keynes.
Altamonte Springs. Where's that at? I'm a
Santa
Google
Monica
that.
first in the house. What's up, Trey?
I'm gonna Google it for the last time. Next up, it's Bing and Chat GPT.
Dino in Townsville keeping the
It's 3 a.m.
Queenstown. Congrats. Don't know why you're on this. Buenos Aires. Yo.
What did the guy say? He's on spring break?
No, Queenstown. What did I say? Did I
I
say
don't
that?
know.
They had Queenstown.
Where'd this person say they were from?
Helsinki, Norberg, Lisbon. What's up, Portugal?
I think this person's fake news.
That's the top of the list of places to retire to in the world.
What, Portugal?
Yeah.
Supposed to be.
You got a
legit
winter.
there.
Stirling, Scotland. What's up?
Still got a winter.
Hmm.
Is the homie in Nazare or the home S?
Sydney.
Is it a home S?
Nokia. I didn't know Nokia was a place. Basingstoke, UK. Victoria, BC. What's up? South Newfoundland. I've missed a few. Sorry, but that's very cool. Seattle. What's up? Fellas, what's happening? This is a wild market. We've strapped straight back into growthy rocket chips.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Or Junko rally.
Shit go rally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always like when my
Someone
stocks
else's.
rally, it's because the fundamentals,
Yeah.
because they're cheap. When your stocks go up, it's a shit go rally.
Yeah, yours is a shit co. Mine's discerning and
Value selection.
nothing to do with interest rates or
Yeah, this is a fun market. It's completely missed value again. Values that Alpha Architect finally updated their spreadsheet through to the end of the year. The spread is
wide.
all-time highs. EV/EBIT all-time highs.
Wide
It's crazy.
spreads are the best spreads. I think
I was gonna make a bad joke about it spread wider than something. Then I decided discretion was a better choice.
well, I don't go with that, which is why some people like you and don't like me.
And
but
vice versa.
but those people are wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Anyway, they should like both of us. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, I was a little disappointed last week in myself. I'm often that, but I don't.
It's a big club. You're welcome to join.
I don't think that I didn't articulate why the Warner Brothers, like I've been thinking a lot. I said like it's not the kind of investment that I'd make anymore. And Toby, you said why, and I kind of like I don't think that I articulated what I meant well enough. And I just think like, you think about 1 foot hurdles. And for me, that thesis is so not a 1 foot hurdle. And
Yeah.
I think it's like one of those that on a spreadsheet can totally make a ton of sense. And I've just gotten more comfortable saying other people can make money in entities and I don't need to make money in that entity. And I don't have, I've gotten really comfortable with the fact finally that like, I don't have a hurdle that I absolutely have to keep up with. I can always park money in the S&P or a value ETF or somewhere. And like, I can look at things swim by and I don't need to try to catch a fish, even if it looks like a fish to everybody else. And I think it's just like one of those things that I think it's a lot harder than to pivot a lot of those brands than the bulls think. And maybe that's because I'm wrong. And if so, like they can make money and I don't need to care.
That's a good place to arrive. I think you're near nirvana.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's much healthier, right? I used to think that I needed to have an opinion on a lot of things. And I don't think being on a show really helped that very much. But now I'm just like,
when you're trying to
much more-
keep your opinion quiet, everyone's like, no, tell us what you think. This is a podcast.
Well, especially
Beefy
since I was so
Capital
loud
says
in the beginning, right?
low
Yeah.
return on brain damage.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
and like, look, if it goes wrong, like I would kick myself. I'd be like, I didn't believe in it in the first place. Now I'm in it. I'm only in it because it is cheap on a spreadsheet. And now the stuff that I didn't like is coming out. And what am I doing?
Or worse,
So-
price got cut in half, and now do I double down or
Yeah,
do
I never would.
run away?
Not in that.
Difficult.
He who ups and runs away lives to run away another day.
Well, something I think that
Mhm.
despite all my shitting on oil back in the day, where I do think that there's a lot of merit in that is there is like true asset value in those businesses. So like one of the things about media that I think is so difficult is like yes, back catalogs are worth something, but you heap a bunch of leverage on it and there's a lot of substitutes for time and there's no like hard and fast thing to lean back on. At least I think certain entities have competitive advantages, but if I don't think that they have a competitive advantage, I'm just not going to play the game. And some of the ones that have an advantage, I don't think are priced very attractively. So I tend to not have much media exposure right now.
Especially on an EV basis.
Yeah. So, that's just kind of where I'm at. But I don't think I answered that appropriately. I think I like half answered it. So anyway, grinded my gears this week.
There you go. Errors and omissions check.
Yeah,
TC,
that's right.
What do you got on tap for today?
On the
Haven't had
agenda.
to apologize to anybody for a mispronounced name in a long time. Maybe we should bring
It's
that
all
up.
right. I've got one coming. Don't worry.
Nice.
Naga.
Okay, cool.
Not a good idea.
Julian Klimochko.
Oh man, that guy
I'll
got
that
so
apologize
can't
for that
be-
next week.
That can't be it.
Sorry, Julian. I'm not entirely sure how to say your last name. He
No,
just had this.
I thought you were worried you messed up the first name. Kamolchko is definitely right. All right. Anyway,
He says that S&P 500 forward earnings growth has just gone negative. And according to Morgan Stanley, the majority of the price downside in equities comes after forward EPS growth goes negative. And he's got a little chart. I'll try and use our high-tech.
Whoa. This is oh boy.
There we go.
Wow, that is really high tech.
This is bad.
This is why people come.
This
You
is a
have no idea
this is
how
a new-
expensive it
new
is to
low
get
for
that.
us.
Just freeze frame that and you can have a look.
Yeah.
So
So other times when it has gone negative, maybe that might be interesting to reference.
yeah, that's a good idea. Let me look at that so I can tell it to you. So the other times when it has gone negative, it went briefly negative in 2020. Well, it went
Okay.
deeply negative, but we all know what happened then. 2015-16. Do you remember that there was that shocking value had a terrible year in, I think it was 2015, had a pretty good year in 2016. It's a while ago now. I'm sure. I think it was those 2 years. You don't remember?
Uh,
I'm
Busted
just shaking my head.
2015.
you mispronounced decade.
Well, there were many, but yeah. And then
I
2008,
am almost
very, very
certain
negative.
2015 is when I bought Freeport McMoran to December of 2015. Was that? Yeah, that was to sell it for like a 50% gain. Yay.
Yeah, that was a good
It
one.
would
That's
have
a
been a
deep value.
7x, 6x.
And the one
That's
before
why
that
I'm
was
good,
2000.
folks.
That's a pretty good record.
You never
Let's
go
pick-
broke taking a profit though, Billy.
That's correct.
Never
Why
make
did
any
I
money
buy it?
either.
Because we banked a copper company and it was constantly in workout. And I was like, how much fucking worse can this get?
Mm.
But, I didn't know how to hold.
So other negative times, 2008,
Just all of the big ones that you guess.
2001.
Yeah.
So
When are
2000.
the times that it happened and we didn't have a crash? Is
So
maybe
the
a
only
different way
one,
to think.
the only one was 2015-16, but we had a pretty nasty drawdown at the end of that year.
Yeah, a lot of stuff got cheap then. UMP got cheap then, I think.
That was
If
an
I recall
interesting year. That was
correctly.
the inflection year. That was when Jake wrote his article about the spread
no
being very
avail.
tight.
Tight spreads,
And I
no
reposted
good.
it. No, it's not.
Hmm.
Anyway, just a data point. Just while we're having this monster rally, I just put a little
Tight-
bit of
tighten the spread, go back
rain
to
on
bed.
it.
That's right. Yeah.
The other one I thought was fairly interesting. So Michael Cantro, who's the gentleman who came up with HOPE, HOPE, housing something employment. It's new orders, profits, and employment. I've had it hammered into my head enough times. No need to send me another email. He says it always looks like a soft landing. So he's got quotes from 2007, 2000, 1990. It always looks like a soft landing.
So everyone at this juncture says soft landing is what?
Yeah.
Okay. So we should not listen to soft landing calls then?
The Fed's going to engineer a soft landing.
Okay.
Maybe they will. Maybe this time's the charm. It's never happened before, but you never know. Sure, they've got enough computing power.
Honestly,
ChatGPT says yes.
Yes, we finally got the AI developed enough to.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to comment on that.
What? ChatGPT?
If you ask it enough, questions, and it'll start giving you political answers, politically correct answers.
Interesting.
That is odd, isn't it?
What's tuned up in the back end? It's trained on whatever it's trained on, and it says what it says.
Yes.
Well, we're all going to be that soon once chips are embedded in our brain. Thank you, Elon.
Yeah, I like Josh Wolf's approach better, where you can get a little band on your arm, and then through, I think it's AI as well. Through AI, it looks at the muscle movements in your arm and the gestures, and it can understand what you're thinking.
Even anticipate what the movement of what your hand wants to do.
Here's a hot take.
Which is
I'm gonna remain analog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna be Dennis Leary in the version of the new version of Demolition Man, where remember they were all living underground and he wanted to drive like a V8 and he wanted to be able to swear without having credits taken away.
Yeah. I would lose a lot of credits if that was how
no
things
3
worked.
shells for you in the bathroom.
No.
Great movie.
JT, what do you got on deck?
Yeah, save this episode, JT. Come on.
Yeah, spiraling out of control. So I've got a little book report-ish on a book from this guy named Felix Oberhauser G. And it is called Better, Simpler Strategy.
Dude, is it green? Because it looked translucent.
Oh, yeah, it is green. So it messed up with my green screen.
Analysis, folks.
Wow, you're ahead of the game. So this came from a book recommendation from Michael Mauboussin in a podcast they did recently. And I'm pretty much anytime he brings up a book and says it's good, like it's going to be an auto order for me and get to the top of the queue. And again, this one did not disappoint. Not the most amazing title, but actually, and I was a little worried going into it because Oberhauser G is a business professor at Harvard, which, I'm always a little bit skeptical about, like practicing versus academia and business when it, but in this instance, this was a great book. And so we can unpack some of the things that I enjoyed about that. If you guys want to eat some veggies right now,
we can do that.
All right. So it's actually very similar in some ways to the straws that I used in the Rebel Allocator of talking about price and value and cost and how those moving them around against each other will reveal things about like profit and brand, or, producer surplus and consumer surplus as it's known in economics. But he uses a different thing that he calls a value stick. And I'll won't put any jokes into that, but I've
been beaten with it for the last decade or
exactly.
so.
No more value sticks for Toby. Oh, beaten or something else?
Beaten with it. Beaten with it.
So basically, like he's saying that businesses sort of exist between these two key mechanisms, and they're really the willingness to pay by the customer on the top end, like basically the output of the business, and then the willingness to sell of the suppliers and the employees on the bottom end, which is sort of like price and cost in a lot of ways. And so a business is trying to push up the willingness to pay, and they're trying to push down the willingness to sell as much as they can. And so, you think about like the iPhone, for instance, like Apple increases the willingness to pay of the iPhone by, beautiful device design, easy to use, the social prestige of using it, like you want to look cool, network effects of, like having a developer community that builds like the best apps for that one. Whereas if you were trying to be like a third platform, a third phone, like you're not really going to get the developer talent as much. Anyway, all of those things increase the willingness to pay by the customer. And I'm a big fan of actually like the jobs to be done framework when thinking through what is it that creates the value for the customer. But I won't divert us onto a tangent onto that. But
I was going to say, what is that?
Well, it's sort of like at a lot of levels, it gets into like the Austrian economics idea of marginal utility for every single feature. And subjective marginal utility. It gets into like, how do you create demand? What is it that the customer actually wants at the end of the day? There's like that, like, you could sell them a 1/4-inch drill bit, but they don't really want a drill bit. That doesn't do anything. They want a hole in something.
Got it.
Well, actually, they don't want a hole in something. They want to be able to hang a picture. And so that's where like 3M used this thought process to come up with those sticky tapes that go up on the wall, as opposed to just selling you like a whole, a drill to drill in and put an anchor. Like, what's the job to be done here? Is like, I want to put a picture up on my wall. So that's the kind of thought that goes into it. So basically, G says that the greater profitability comes from creating superior customer delight, greater employee satisfaction, and more generous supplier surplus. So value creation comes before value capture. So I'll quickly go through some of like the different ways that he breaks down increasing the customer's willingness to pay. So you have products and services, the greater similarity between like products and the value that they deliver, their value sticks, the greater pressure is that to compete on price. So this is like kind of the typical commodity versus a differentiated product. He also has this idea that he calls near customers. These are all the people that you don't know about in your business who, if you could increase it just a little bit for them, their willingness to pay, it would all of a sudden like trigger them. And there'd be maybe this tipping point where you could unlock a whole new customer batch that were previously a segment that wasn't part of your customer base. They're kind of a latent customer. And then you have the idea of complements. So this is basically like any product or service that increases the willingness to pay for another product. Razors and blades is a classic example. Think about how useless are roads, gas stations, and parking garages if you don't have cars. So all those are complements for cars, and vice versa.
Cars pretty useless without any of those.
Yeah, right. So they're complements for each other. They increase the willingness to pay for both of them because they coexist.
Flying cars.
Yeah, where we're going, we don't need cars.
Or roads.
Network effects, which people talk about that a lot. That can also increase the willingness to pay. You think about the first fax machine, relatively useless. The 10,000th one, very useful because you can connect to this network. Now, how about decreasing the willingness to sell from the inputs into your business? Employee satisfaction, non-salary benefits. I was actually thinking through, we in the last like month or whatever, we've kind of made fun of those day in the life videos from the tech companies. But I think I've changed my opinion on that. And what if instead it's not a bad look, but like instead management is happy that they're putting them out there because then everyone wants to come work there and they see how awesome it is and maybe they take a lower salary. So you're perhaps lowering the willingness to sell by effectively advertising all these cool extra amenities.
Dude, I don't know. This one's hard for me to get on board with, but okay.
Keep an open mind, Billy.
We're dealing with something in my house that makes me question this, but we can get back to that at the end.
Well, I mean, please share that because I'll just keep going otherwise. So
I'm going to sound like such an old man.
Boomer alert.
Yeah, this is some boomer shit. My wife was pretty successful, worked at a big firm. She now teaches as an adjunct professor for a law school. And she gave somebody an assignment and the person said to her, well, I can't let law school get in the way of my life. And I mean, this is supposed to be a high performing individual. And then the other person didn't do any work and then accused my wife of being sexist, even though she's also a woman. I'm not sure where the youth's minds are. And I know that I am officially turning into one of these people that is the old man questioning the youth. And maybe that's like one or two people, but I'm worried about whether or not people expect that day in the life type stuff and whether or not you want those kind of people in your organization. Like I am an ist. I am an ableist. I figured it out. And I'm also a hard workerist. Those are the people I want around me, and the rest of the people can kind of get fucked. And I don't want to attract people that like the day in the life people. That's kind of where I'm at with this.
Toby, tiebreaker, words of wisdom.
Is it any different than it's ever been?
I'm
Has it
probably
always been
not,
that
but
way?
social media seems to
I'm
throw
sure you
some
can
water
find
on
some
that.
like Sumerian tablet where they chisel on it some complaint about the youth.
The lost youth.
Somebody
Yeah.
probably said that about me when I was at the bank, so I get it. But boy, oof. I don't know. Anyway,
I wonder to
sorry
what
to
extent
interrupt.
that sort of attrition just happens naturally. Like if law school is somewhat demanding. If you have an attitude that you can't let it interfere with your life, you might not be able to get through, and that might be the first filter.
These are second year doing an additional course. Like this
Still
is
going to graduate. Still going to get there.
That's fair. Yeah, the one came at
Still
her
going to get
because
employed.
well, the one she didn't give like a good recommendation, so then the teacher didn't give her a professional recommendation. Now the woman's pissed at my wife. It's like, how about you fucking do some work and then you'll get the recommendation. Anyway, I digress.
That's a low rates phenomenon.
Yeah, that's definitely consequences are. Thanks,
J Pal.
Ted. Yeah.
It's not Pal's fault, I guess.
Oh, yeah, he just inherited.
Probably Bernanke's fault. Sowing the seeds of laziness a long time ago.
I think we can go further back.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so too. But
It's
I
fair.
don't think that Bernanke or Yellen did anything particularly heroic on the way through either.
All right. Sorry.
That's all right. That's a good diversion.
You just triggered me.
We snowflake. So, all right. So back to employee satisfaction. Actually, like flexibility of work hours, it turns out to be very highly valued, and also even passion for the work that you're doing. Like, there's a lot of books about finding your passion and doing passionate work, but that actually plays into like, if you have a bigger mission, if Toby's Invincibles idea where you have like, you stand for something important and that people can resonate with, that you're lowering willingness to sell in a lot of cases. So you have the high ground, right? Is that how would you call that, Toby?
There's Tesla.
What's the book say?
Tesla has a, there are people who've ignored a lot of the problems with Tesla because they're so excited about the mission and Elon Musk. So it clearly works. But then again, there might be another side to that too, where if they get upset with him, then it goes the other way too. We'll see.
Yeah.
SpaceX is very good marketing for him.
Yeah.
I said something about him last night because I was sitting at dinner and a shuttle went up. I was like, I don't know, like part of me gets pissed off at Elon and part of me loves him. And everyone at the table was like, I can't believe any part of you is pissed off at him. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
Welcome to the cult, losers. I said, that's because you don't care about securities fraud.
Yeah. Well, not convicted though, right? Isn't that what I said?
That's right. That's correct.
If must have quit, I guess.
Sorry, Samson. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. So, and by the way, like all of this stuff, I think is actually would make for a pretty reasonable checklist for you to think through every single business that you own and how are they increasing customers' willingness to pay? How are they subtracting the suppliers and employees' willingness to sell their services? So let's talk about suppliers. You can actually do things as a business person to lower the cost to provide it to you, like by easier to work with. At the end, like aligning incentives correctly between you and your suppliers as much as you can. And I think there's a saying that like supply chains are people too. And like, I think a lot of times you sort of lose track of the fact that like, these are also businesses with people behind them trying to have a margin, trying to exist in an ecosystem. And I think a lot of times businesses don't look back enough to the people who are helping support them that way. And so thinking of them more like partners, and then also being careful about who you kind of get into bed with if you're a partner in anything. Who do you use for your suppliers?
Big time applies in life.
Yeah.
Be careful who you get in bed with.
Yes, agreed.
And who you partner with.
So then she starts talking about firm productivity. And I didn't realize this, but there, like within industries, there are massive deltas between the 90th percentile most productive and the 10th percentile.
This is the companies?
Yeah, these are companies.
Businesses.
This isn't, so in the US, there's 2x the output for the 90th percentile compared to the 10th percentile.
How then, this is intra-industry. So
with intra-industry. Yeah, same inputs even, but the outputs because of productivity just massively different.
Because you got a scale advantage. Productivity is one of those things that I'm a little bit suspicious about what it actually measures, because I always see these productivities up, productivities down. I don't know exactly what it measures.
I think perhaps a good I think the beer industry might be an interesting example of what Jake's talking about. My perception of Heineken and Sam is that they're much closer to, I think, the things that Jake are talking about. And my perception of AB InBev is that it's not nearly as close. And I think that, I didn't listen to people when I thought AB InBev was a decent investment, and they were like, you're not paying attention to like some of the cultural stuff under the hood and the fact that they're trying to extract too much from the system. You need to look at like what Heineken and Sam are doing. And I got myself to the old, it's priced in type thing. But I really think I missed some of the stuff that is, I think AB InBev, at least for a time, went through a non-win-win-win period. And I think it really bit them.
So, productivity between India and China, the delta is even more pronounced. So between 90th percentile firms and 10th percentile, 5-to-1 differences. I have no idea why that is, but it's provocative.
If you get scaled, does your productivity go up? So the bigger you get, the more productive you are, because you just have one person can do more with a bigger factory.
There's some of that. I think some of it's like learning curve related, but we'll get into that a little bit. He has this other idea that's called minimum efficient scale. So basically, like, what business volume do you need to be competitive, cost competitive within your industry? And there is some, depending on whatever the industry is, there's some minimum volumes that you need to even be in the ballpark of competition. And so he has this example of Coke and Pepsi in the 70s. They really scaled up their advertising. And it turns out that both of them finished that time period with larger market shares than they started with. Both of who lost out market share? It was all these smaller regional brands that couldn't afford big national advertising, and they were sub minimum efficiency scale for the soft drink industry, basically. And they went broke and died out. And it left two kind of oligopoly type of leftover dynamics. So I think that's interesting to think through.
That phenomenon's happened in lots of industries, right? Or lots of consumer packaged goods type places. And the advent of the internet and, Instagram and other sort of more fragmented marketing has meant that has reversed a little bit. We've got microbreweries and lots of different little types of soft drinks now. Yeah. Do you think that, which is probably a good thing?
We'll see if it reverts, though. This the ATT stuff that Apple threw down, you could argue that's going to end up hurting the ability to enter. It's just it was the ability for Instagram and Facebook to figure out what you were doing after you saw an ad and then retarget you and stuff like that. Now it's, I think that there's a strong argument to be made that the ability to track while it pisses people off because of privacy, I think it helps small business a decent amount. And I think that small businesses on the margin hurt. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Well, so Toby, a little bit of like what some of that minimum efficient scale is geographical. And depending on the industry, like some industries are global enough to be winner take all. And like, you end up with one or two dominant world players. But then a lot of times, like there are scaling effects that like don't get past a certain geography, and you can't and then you end up then like with a lot of shattered or fractured marketplaces where there are winners within that instead of on a bigger scale. So it's, you know, it's not a perfect, like, oh, you just, the bigger you are, you know, the more competitive you are until there's some technological disruption, which is true, but there's a lot more fracture within that. And there's a lot more regionality and geographic constraints that will keep a network from getting, or keep an ecosystem from being dominated. And then like they can't, the predator can't move outside of the ecosystem well enough.
Do you remember, I think it's a Bruce Greenwald analysis where I think he was talking about Tesla, or it's been applied to Tesla to say that there's a reason why Musk was able to break into the car market versus say something else like soft drink market or something like that. And it was because there was like X number of units turned over in any given year, and you needed some tiny portion of that in order to be able to enter the industry. Was that Bruce Greenwald? Do you remember?
That sounds like was that in Competition Demystified, or maybe it was in one of
It feels like that kind of analysis. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that he does something similar when he's trying to measure the duration of a moat. He looks at market share changes, and
this is the other end of that analysis. Yeah.
So last wrap up thing, Oberhauser G talks about how actually like stakeholder capitalism, like we've talked about lots of times on the show, about recognizing all of the counterparties within a business and how they're impacted by it, and the good for society that can be done. And there's no shame in trying to increase the willingness to pay for a customer, because they're getting more perceived value out of it. Like that's what you're trying to do, is make them feel good about, like, delight them. And that's, I think it's easy to forget that business can have that positive effect in society sometimes.
Who does that, Apple? Do you think?
Who does stakeholder capitalism well?
Well, just who does the increasing the ability to pay, or increasing the willingness to pay? Because Apple has a few little tricks like that. If you don't have an Apple phone and you're in an Apple group chat, you're green, the different color. Yeah,
it's hilarious because WhatsApp is a better messaging system, period. But Americans, for some reason, don't use it.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you can't.
I do from my Pixel.
Oh, no, God. Well, you're lucky you're married. Otherwise, you'd never get laid. There's a ton. I just can't think of any.
Every business is trying to increase their willingness to pay. I mean, any ad you see on TV or on the internet or anything is a exercise in increasing willingness to pay.
I was just saying who does it well. I thought Apple is an example of who does it well, because I say that as someone who recently purchased a new Apple computer, and it's, where I like the 27-inch, it's all packed into one. Now you got to buy two. So you got two power cords to plug in, which meant I needed a different sized
Plus
adapter.
That second mortgage on your house to get the computer is
they're expensive. And on top of that, it doesn't have as much storage as my last computer, which was like 5 or 6 years old, because I think they want to push everybody into the cloud. It just kind of pissed me off. I thought this would never have happened under Jobs.
Is that right? I don't know.
It just feels like the design, like they make these tiny little, like you need some maniac at the top who stops the camera from sticking out on the bevel and stops we're not going to have two power cords. We're not going to do this because it's a little bit annoying. And it all just like all of those incremental changes that just make it incrementally worse over time.
Yeah. How about
luxury?
Where's my no
USBs
coming in my laptop, my new Apple laptop?
No USBs.
What are we doing?
What are you connecting with? Is that USB or what is it?
No, I had to buy a dongle that goes into the lightning port that then lets me plug HDMI and USB and anything else into it.
Dongle.
So I'm dongling right now.
Luxury, right? I would say that's something that makes people want to pay more over time.
Yeah.
So
Arnaud figured that out. Bernard Arnault.
Yeah.
Wow. Oof. Richest man in the world.
Yeah, what's he worth these days?
I saw it yesterday.
It's all monopoly money.
It's he's in the 3 comma club.
Trace commas.
Yeah. Well into it too. I thought I saw 100 billion, but I could be wrong.
He's the wealthiest man in the world at the moment.
Yeah. There was an article about the secession, about who his children are going to get. But when the kids are 21, kid's 28, you can't take over a company at 28. Come on. Oof. Get a little watch company. Have fun with that.
cut your teeth on this.
That's not a bad idea. Start them on something small.
Well, that's what he does. He manages a watch company. I'm sure he's got a G5, probably has a supermodel girlfriend, a couple Lambos. Like, that's not the end of the world.
But is he happy?
You just don't get to run shit. What?
Is he happy?
Is he happy? Fuck no. His dad was never around. He's probably got tons of time on a couch.
Maybe he's reading a lot of philosophy. Who knows? Maybe he's very happy.
It's getting a little cathartic in here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was talking about myself. It wasn't my dad. It was my mom. Anyway, I digress. And she was around. She was just drunk. Anyway.
All right. What's our next topic?
Oh, I wanted to ask you, as you were talking, I was writing down notes. Do you think some of the reason that the big, other than like law of large numbers, I'm trying to like contextualize why that exists. And do you think some of the reason that the big start to like atrophy and die is you get to a certain size where in order to continue to grow, you have to start to do things against the stakeholders that you're referring to? And then like the ecosystem starts to implode on you because there's only so much money that you're naturally entitled to in the world.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, what's a good analogy?
I mean, I've been ranting about Disney for almost 6, 7, 8 months now. Like they just push this too far in the parks. It's too far. And I just kind of wonder if it's a function that they have this huge enterprise value and they felt like they had to justify it. And they felt like, we got to make some short-term decisions. And I think they're going to fix it, right? I don't think it's a permanent blemish on the brand, but it's just an example that's prominent for me right now.
So in nature, there are, ant eaters that literally eat ants for their sustenance, but ants as a defense can swarm the anteater and literally climb in and choke off, like by suffocating him or her. I guess there's probably male and female anteaters, I believe, but suffocate the ant by swarming, or suffocate the anteater by swarming, and that might be an analogy of if you kind of screw your customers over too many times, they may swarm in some way and move against you. And any one individual one is breakfast, but as a big enough group, they have power and can inflict damage.
I've said this before, but it annoys me the way, for example, the airlines just unilaterally, screw over their passengers all the time. And they know it doesn't matter because the people who get the complaints are, like minimum wage standing at the front door, not getting paid until the door closes. I just think that's wrong.
I have a soft spot in my heart for airlines. It's a pretty good value.
Oh, it's amazing value. I mean, what's the alternative? You're going to take a train for 5 days that takes for a flight for 5 hours?
Or you have some like really luxury experience and all the airlines need to be nationalized because they can't make any money. I mean, there's like a long history of pleasant airline experiences leading to bankruptcy. It's a shame they have to be buses to work. I don't disagree with you, but the problem is at the end of the day, when you look at how customers vote when it comes to airline travel, and all you got to look at is Ryanair, Spirit, Wizz Air, Volaris. Like, I don't care what the ULCC that you're looking at, the ultra low cost carrier is, their load factors are huge. The people are always bitching and they're always rebooking because people like on the travel side, they always vote with the cost.
Want cheap. Yeah. Well, so this is the problem. This is what this book would tell you about that, is that you can't create very much of a differentiated value experience in an airplane. And I mean, you can, but it's not like insanely different.
Yeah,
and the back of the plane arrives at roughly the same time as the front of the plane. And so if that's the case, then price becomes the thing that you have to compete on. And then so everyone is that's why then like the low cost providers tend to win out. And like you said, like people reveal their preferences by rebooking, even though they say, I'll never do that again.
Yeah. I like that.
I got a good question here from Samson.
Better, Simpler Strategy, a value-based guide to exceptional performance.
That's a good name. I thought you were
it's a name that sells.
I got a good one from Samson here. Is Microsoft Bing with ChatGPT going to destroy Google?
it's not my favorite thing as a Google shareholder, but the majority of my net worth is in Microsoft relative to Google. So I don't know. I don't think it destroys it. I don't think it's like great. You'd rather it doesn't exist if you're long Google.
I find it hard to believe that they haven't been working on something in this realm for quite a while. Google. Yeah.
I think they announced that they have something coming out.
Yeah.
I think it was like Aiden or something like that. I'm sure they have something, right?
I don't know how good Google is at making consumer products. Something, and I love you Googlers, I really do. But something that makes me nervous about Googlers is they might just be like a little too smart for the average human. They may not know how like the average person interacts with.
Is that how you end up with a Pixel phone?
No.
I quite like the Pixel phone, but again, the Pixel phone, the last phone had face identification, and this one's got a thumbprint. Like, I don't know, why would you go backwards? I think it gives them better thank you. It gives them better battery life.
I like the thumbprint.
As opposed to the face, you don't just like looking at it and it opens.
No, I like the thumbprint better.
Okay, well, it should give you the option then, shouldn't it? Turn it off. Hey, increase your battery life by turning it off, or leave it on and have it turn on when you look at it.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can choose to go the way of the future, or you can go back to being a Luddite.
It just seems funny that they go backwards. Like the phone beforehand had that face feature, and it's disappeared on this new phone. A little bit frustrating.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. These
people don't like it.
The problems you have to deal with.
Living in the future, like it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good living in the future. To be fair,
living a rough life.
These are real first world problems, aren't they?
Oh
yes, they are.
Ugh, my phone doesn't open the way I want it to open.
But to be fair though, like I am talking about it from an investment perspective, and I think that incrementally all these little things like they're
symptomatic of.
Like our house owns stuff that is Apple because we own other things that are Apple, and we might not have gone the Apple option if we didn't already have an embedded like Apple ecosystem here, and it makes it hard to make other stuff talk to it.
This is the bull case.
And so at some point, maybe you flip the other way. Like that's existed before. It's not like it's impossible that it'll go away.
It's not impossible, but you probably still use Excel.
Yeah. Although
it's kind of sticky.
I'll get the numbers and the dates wrong, but I put up a tweet, I don't know, maybe a month ago or something about IBM. Like, and they put up the highest amount of money ever made in a year in, I think it was 1988, maybe, best ever. And then I think it was 9 years later, the most lost money ever in a year. So these, like you could go from being the absolute dominant and just like unassailable, IBM, no one gets fired for hiring IBM, right? Like it was a cliche practically, to then, and also ran relatively quickly, especially with technology. So although you could maybe, I don't know if today's, phones are, if you'd even call them technology anymore, and if they're really more of they're not CPG, but they almost feel a little bit closer to that than they do like high technology.
Yeah.
I think Buffett would say they're CPG.
Yeah. That's probably fair. What about the browser? Does everybody use Chrome?
I don't know.
What's Microsoft's new browser like?
I think it's over 50% is Chrome. I don't know. I have to look, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what the browser. I mean, the key is, how much you have to pay for iPhone search and whatnot, right? So look, I think ChatGPT is a really interesting product, and I hope for Google's sake that they release something close to it sooner than later, because I do think that there's a risk that people start going over because it's fun. And then if they form the habit of going there because it's fun, that could be a problem. That's all else equal. You would like to have a monopoly on eyeballs. Anything that infringes upon the eyeballs is not a great thing. And you can argue, well, it's not going to kill it or whatever. But I just think, look, if you're investing, you'd rather not have to make an argument for why something is not a threat. Like you'd just rather it doesn't exist. So
it feels to me like Google has been, of all of the FANGs, Google has been the one that's been consistently cheapest. Like it seems to have Apple cycles a little bit. Microsoft's been consistently just expanding multiples. What else is in there? Amazon's pretty expensive most of the time. Whereas Google, for some reason, doesn't really ever get a nosebleed multiple. Like it just doesn't ever get really expensive. Why do you think that is?
It's the black box problem of how much would you pay for a business that earned all of this money, but the dollars never came out of the black box. What is it worth?
You ain't never seeing that shit.
So let me be more concrete. The dollar that's generated within search is amazing, massive, maybe the best business to ever grace the planet Earth. But then what happens with the money after that? And that's been the question mark for a long time. And so you therefore, if you're indexing off of a multiple of that earnings, that then who knows where they go, they're going to always look cheaper relative to other things where I think the market has perhaps correctly perceived that the incremental dollar kept within the business of Apple or Amazon or Google, or maybe Meta at one point, maybe not recently, but was going to be reinvested in a higher ROIC project than what Google was going to do. So that's my take.
Meta's had a pretty stunning rally recently. Was that because that they brought out the $40 billion buyback and they had $40 billion in cash, and so that means that they've got to put some sort of feta on Zuck's spending with respect to the metaverse?
That was a cheap stock, man.
I mean, no dispute from me.
Yeah. I don't know. There was that guy that popped in the comments that said, I never say anything worth listening to. And I told him, I said, Meta's cheap. And that was under 100. So you're welcome, asshole.
Not investment advice.
Yeah, that's right. We were just discussing thoughts.
Yeah, just for fun.
No, I don't know. I mean, they reined in their CapEx. They used the word, what did they use? Like discipline or whatever. Yeah, efficiency like 15 times, 18 times or whatever. I think
they found Jesus in discipline with their cost, which I find
I still think the bet fundamentally comes down to, do you think that Zuck someday, either, let's say 2 or 3 years down the road, looks at the results or lack of results and can make a rational decision on his version of the metaverse? I mean, a lot of the CapEx spend is family of apps, like a lot of the CapEx spend is. Have you seen
the metaverse?
Have I been inside it? I have been inside it.
Have you seen a corporate version of it?
Is it warm?
No, I have not been. I have not done that. I've
seen it, and I got some 1990s kind of
feeling.
What was that CD? Everything was going to be brought on CD-ROM, and it was all multimedia. It was that kind. It was just like, I was like, good luck.
Yeah, he's the man has earned the right to pursue this, but he has not earned the right to pursue it in perpetuity. So we shall see whether or not he can be rational. I think he can be, but
it's still a good business. Like, it's still the blue website is still growing. Somehow
overseas and whatnot.
WhatsApp under monetized.
WhatsApp is a heck of a property. We'll see if he ever monetizes it for real. But yeah.
What did they spend on that? Was it like 40 billion?
I think it was 20.
WhatsApp?
Yeah, 20.
I don't know.
That's what
don't know off the top of my head.
Top of my head, 19.
Yeah, YouTube at $1 billion was probably or 1.65, whatever it was, probably one of the all-time great buys.
Yeah, Instagram was pretty good too.
Instagram
was pretty good too.
That was good.
The one thing that but I do think Google's AI capabilities, from what I read, I think it makes their cloud product quite good. I don't know how differentiated those products are, but to the extent they are, I think AI is helping Google in the cloud.
Has AI just become a complete commodity? I've already commoditized.
It's very possible AI. It does. I don't understand how many like I get that AI people say that you need so much data in order to have like this AI advantage.
16 billion for WhatsApp, according to Austin Reynolds.
No, 19 billion in 2014.
That's right.
That's a big dollar.
Austin, Google and you versus Jake and his brain.
That was
just lost.
ChatGPT said 16 billion.
Oh, there you go.
ChatGPT. But it was very, very confident about that $16 billion number.
That's right. It made you really believe it. Yeah, anyway, I just don't know. I understand you need a lot of data. I know that everybody says you need a lot of data. There's a part of me that questions, do you actually need that much data, or is it just a bunch of people that are dependent upon telling you that you need a lot of data in order to justify their jobs, telling you need a lot of data? I don't know. Right? N equals 30 is statistically significant. No doubt more inputs, can increase your kind of confidence interval. But like, once you're 99% confident, how much does it really matter that you're 99.9% confident? I mean, I guess in theory, quite a bit, but how much does that cost?
Distribution of outcomes, fat tails, that can change your.
I heard Apple makes $8.5 billion out of Apple Care every year, and very rarely nobody cashes it in.
So yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's very smart.
That is smart.
Yeah, it's like insurance that no one's ever going to put a claim in on.
Tesla needs to introduce some Tesla Care.
I think that the cost of fixing on a Tesla is a little bit different than Apple's. And the motivation too, right? Like, I don't know. My AirPod breaks and it's old. Maybe I just replace it. If my Tesla does, I'm definitely going to call somebody.
Yeah. Probably less slippage there.
Yeah.
Well, just do it for the seats then.
Yeah.
Do it for the interior. Do it for the flamethrower.
We've been looking at EVs. Tesla crossed my mind. Yeah.
Anything good? How are they? Like, have they come down in price at all?
No.
See, what? That's not the future.
I mean, they may have. I guess Tesla, it's not true. Tesla, I guess, cut the cost of we're looking for an SUV. So,
okay. What do they have? What are you looking at?
I don't know. Right now, we're looking at Rivians. Got the highest Doug score ever. You know that guy, Doug D'Amato, on YouTube? Doug does reviews. I'm pretty sure his last name's D'Amato. If it's not, sorry for the disrespect.
And pizza places.
Yeah. Well, he gave the highest Doug score ever to any car was the Rivian SUV.
I've seen a few on the hill here.
What do you think?
This is the SUV style, right? Rather than they've had that the truck style's been up for a while, but the SUVs just come in. They look good.
We just have an issue.
They cost. They're like $75,000 or something. That's
the
price I saw a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do they have that Tesla model where you buy them directly from Rivian, or have you got to go to is it another dealership?
I don't even know. My wife we're talking about putting a down payment on getting on a wait list. So she was on the website today and I haven't done full research, but we are looking. We are in the gathering stage.
That's as good
of information. Yeah. Polestar is I'm pretty sure that's a Volvo product, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I never do. So
I thought you were a car guy.
I'm not an EV guy.
Okay.
But I do think it makes sense. I want one to bop around town in. And I don't know. We have a Volvo now and it's like coming out. It's 8 years old. I'm worried I'm going to have to replace the engine. So then I was like, should I just get an EV? But then I was like, what if I just replace the engine? That's way cheaper than buying a new car. So I'll probably just replace the engine and then have it for another 3 or 4 years and then buy the EV.
So people actually drive them. Is the charging an issue? Are you able to charge them sufficiently?
Oh yeah, my grandma's got one. It's fucking sick, man. She had an old. Is she doing a lot of driving? Well, not anymore. But she just parks
a trip though, right? I mean, it's only good for just around town.
Look, the supercharger stations are legit. It takes you a little while, but how many times do you actually go more than 300 miles? Like for real?
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah. So if you live in a warm climate and you're not going like around, I don't know, if you don't go over 150 miles, say, I think that's pretty okay.
Are you holding up for the Cybertruck?
Just get on an
No.
airplane if you're going to drive 300 miles. That's like
I enjoy driving. But yeah,
It takes you as long to board an airplane and fly and disembark and get you all the taxis and all
what's
that
the
other stuff
break
as it
even?
does
It's like
just to drive.
500 miles or
Is
something.
it 500?
I don't know. I
Probably.
saw it at one point. I can't remember what it was. Something like that.
yeah, 500 seems a little far, but 300 is what, roughly 5 hours if you drive like a pansy. The one problem that I do think the EVs have is like if you really get on the Teslas, their range is not the marketed range, and they are really fun to get on. So, you can watch that thing go down, but you could do the same thing with a gas car if you stomp on it.
True.
This market's had a monster rally over the last 3 months, 4 months.
Definitely year to date at a minimum.
Commodities
It's gone
rolling
vertical.
over, bond spreads coming in, equities going up, risk on, baby.
Do we want to revisit our estimates for higher or lower for the end of the year?
No, it's February.
Yeah. There's a lot there's a lot of time on the clock.
Also, if you were going to have a bear market rally, this is what it would feel like. Right? Just enough to get people into FOMO, to pile in, to get their face ripped off, because that's what markets should do. On the other hand, the rebubble is fun.
Boy, it's a tough to short, right? In this environment.
Yeah, well,
you got
2022 was the year of the short seller.
Meme stockers, stock still somehow, like, I don't know, GameStop or Bed Bath and Beyond I saw the other day was up some crazy amount. Like,
all
what
of
is
those
happening?
stocks.
Just
Bed Bath
stay
and
out of
Beyond,
there.
yeah, that's another head scratcher. It's like if it's close to bankruptcy, if it gets that Q, it's going to rocket. I'm going to try and issue something with a Q at the end.
A company I was the next guest on my pod talks about it, and I am not at all saying to get excited about this as an investment, but this company Amyris, the ticker's AMRS, they're doing some wild stuff with synthetic biology where like they're basically turning sugar, they're using yeast to turn sugar into like a bunch of different molecules.
Not going to work.
So what?
None of that stuff works.
I don't know.
Not going to work.
We'll see.
Not going to work.
Well, we'll see. That's what people say until things work.
True.
Got big time money behind them, but I mean, I don't know that I'd invest in it.
Now I know it's not going to work.
Like Theranos level money, or
no, they had a Kleiner Perkins, John Doerr, and then they had Bill and Melinda Gates money at one point. They got some backers.
After FTX collapsed and I saw some of the documents at the back of FTX, I've just got there's no respect for any of those guys. Oh my God. That should have all been disqualifying.
Whew.
I don't know. We'll see, man. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. And
due diligence is a hindrance in a bull market, Toby.
It really is. Like as a VC, you don't want to be doing any.
Don't do that.
You just gotta spread those bets.
I did see Adam Newman's back with a new. I
watched
a little minute clip of him talking about what he this new scheme. I mean, business.
Compelling. Scam.
He's a guy I'd maybe give money to. I'll admit that.
Oh,
corporation.
No.
Yeah, small enough in a limited liability company at the right valuation.
Are you serious? No.
Dude, you're just trying to flip it to somebody way bigger. I'm not saying you want to own the cash flow of it, but like I get it.
Fellas,
it's just a different game.
We did it. We got there. Thanks, everybody.
We got to be better.
It's a bit of a beauty contest, but you're starting very tiny with a guy that's proven the ability to show beauty out of nothing. That's kind of worth a bet.
He could paint that Rembrandt.
Yeah, well, look, isn't that a lot of what being a VC is?
Oof.
Yeah, I said it.